How much is your car accident claim worth? 10 factors that affect settlement value. Two people can be involved in car crashes that look almost identical. Both vehicles may have similar damage. Both drivers may go to the hospital. Both may miss time from work. Yet one claim may resolve for a relatively modest amount, while another may be worth considerably more. Why? Because there is no universal price tag attached to a car accident. Insurance companies, attorneys, and courts do not simply look at a damaged bumper and select a number from a chart. The potential value of an injury claim can depend on a combination of medical evidence, financial losses, fault, available insurance, the long-term effect of the injuries, and the strength of the evidence supporting the claim. In this video, Law IQ is breaking down 10 major factors that can influence the potential settlement value of a car accident claim. This content is provided for general educational purposes only. Personal injury laws, insurance rules, damage limits, and available remedies vary by jurisdiction and individual circumstances. Nothing in this video is individualized legal advice. Let's start with the factor that usually receives the most attention. Factor 1. The nature and severity of the injury. The first major question is not simply whether someone was injured. It is how serious the injury actually is. Consider two different collisions. In the first, a driver experiences soreness for several days, receives limited treatment, and returns to normal activities quickly. In the second, another driver suffers multiple fractures, undergoes surgery, requires months of rehabilitation, and continues experiencing physical limitations long after the collision. Those two situations involve very different levels of harm. The severity of an injury may affect medical expenses, recovery time, lost income, physical limitations, and the amount of discomfort a person experiences. An injury that resolves quickly is generally different from one that permanently affects mobility, employment, independence, or daily life. Medical diagnosis can therefore become an important part of understanding a claim. But labels alone do not necessarily determine value. Two people may receive the same diagnosis while experiencing very different recoveries. One may return to work in 2 weeks. Another may require surgery and ongoing treatment. That is why the complete medical picture matters more than simply the name of an injury. Factor 2. Medical treatment and documented healthcare costs. The second factor involves medical care. After an injury, records may show emergency treatment, diagnostic testing, physician visits, physical therapy, medication, specialist care, surgery, or other services. These records can help document both the existence of an injury and the treatment associated with it. Medical expenses may also form part of the economic losses claimed in a personal injury matter. But the analysis is not necessarily as simple as adding every bill together. Questions may arise about whether treatment was connected to the collision, whether the care was medically necessary, whether costs were reasonable under applicable law, and whether future treatment is expected. For example, suppose someone receives an emergency evaluation after a crash and is released the same day. Now compare that with a person who requires surgery, rehabilitation, follow-up imaging, specialist appointments, and continuing medication. The second situation may create a much larger medical component. Documentation becomes especially important because a settlement discussion is usually based on evidence rather than memory. A statement such as, "I went through months of treatment," is very different from organized records showing exactly what care was provided and when. California's Department of Insurance, for example, tells consumers that medical payment or uninsured motorist claims may require documentation of injuries, medical expenses, and lost wages. Factor 3. Future medical needs. A claim does not always stop with bills that have already arrived. Sometimes an injury may require care in the future. That might include additional physical therapy, follow-up examinations, injections, surgery, medication, assistive equipment, or other treatment. Future medical needs can be especially significant when the injury is serious or long-lasting. But future treatment should not simply be guessed. Medical opinions, treatment plans, prognosis, and professional recommendations may become important when evaluating whether additional care is reasonably expected. Imagine someone is still recovering when settlement discussions begin. Their current medical expenses tell only part of the story. If a physician believes another procedure may be necessary 6 months later. Resolving the matter before understanding those future needs could create a very different outcome than evaluating the complete expected course of treatment. This is one reason serious injury claims can take time to assess. The full impact may not be clear immediately after the collision. Factor 4. Income lost because of the injury. Medical bills are only one category of financial loss. An injury can also interfere with someone's ability to work. Suppose a person earns wages every week but cannot return to work for 6 weeks because of accident-related restrictions. That period may create lost income. Documentation might include pay records, employer confirmation, tax records, work schedules, or medical restrictions depending on the circumstances. For a salaried employee, the calculation may be relatively straightforward in some cases. For someone who earns commissions, overtime bonuses, freelance income, or business profits, proving the amount of loss may become more complicated. The central issue is evidence. How much income would reasonably have been earned if the accident had not occurred? And how much income was actually lost because of the injury? The American Bar Association notes that personal injury damages can include medical bills, lost wages, and future wage losses. Factor 5. Reduced future earning ability. This factor is different from simply missing a few weeks of work. A serious injury may affect what a person is capable of earning in the future. Imagine a construction worker who suffers a permanent physical limitation and can no longer perform the same type of labor. Or consider a professional whose injury prevents them from working the same number of hours they previously worked. The issue may become future earning capacity. Evaluating that kind of loss can involve questions about age, occupation, education, career path, previous income, medical restrictions, and whether alternative employment is available. The calculation may become more complex because it concerns future economic impact rather than only wages already lost. Not every accident creates this type of claim. But when an injury permanently changes someone's working ability, future income can become an important component. Cornell's Legal Information Institute recognizes lost wages and earning capacity among common forms of personal injury recovery. Factor 6. Pain, discomfort, and impact on everyday life. Some losses do not arrive with an invoice. There is no hospital bill that tells you the exact dollar value of physical pain. There is no receipt for being unable to sleep comfortably. There is no standard price for losing the ability to participate in hobbies, exercise, family activities, or routines that were previously normal. These types of losses are commonly described as non-economic damages. Pain and suffering can include physical discomfort and emotional distress associated with an injury. The severity and duration of the injury may matter. So may the effect on day-to-day life. Consider a person who experiences temporary discomfort for 1 week. Now compare that with someone who has chronic pain for years and can no longer participate in activities that were an important part of life. Those experiences are not equivalent. Because non-economic losses are less easily measured than medical bills or wage statements, they can become an area of disagreement during settlement negotiations. Documentation, medical evidence, credible testimony, and the overall circumstances may all matter. Factor 7. Whether the injuries are temporary or permanent. Duration can substantially change the picture. Some people recover completely. Others reach a point where physicians believe certain limitations may continue indefinitely. Permanent impairment, scarring, disfigurement, loss of function, or long-term disability may increase the significance of an injury claim. The American Bar Association identifies disability and physical disfigurement among harms that may be compensable in personal injury cases. Consider someone who injures a shoulder. If the person completes treatment and regains full function, the long-term effect may be limited. But if the same injury leaves permanent restrictions that prevent lifting, working, or performing ordinary tasks, the consequences may continue for years. The important issue is not simply whether someone says an injury is permanent. Medical evidence and prognosis can matter considerably. A credible professional assessment of long-term impairment is different from speculation about what might happen. Factor 8. Who is legally responsible for the collision? A serious injury does not automatically mean the other side owes the full amount of claimed damages. Liability matters. Who caused the accident? And can that responsibility be established? Evidence may include police information, witness statements, photographs, video footage, traffic signals, vehicle damage, electronic data, or other material. In some cases, fault may be relatively clear. In others, both sides may accuse one another. Different states also use different rules for situations in which more than one person shares responsibility. That can affect how much compensation may ultimately be recoverable. Because these rules vary significantly, a percentage of fault cannot be discussed accurately without knowing the jurisdiction. The key principle is that a strong damages case can still face difficulty when liability is uncertain. Personal injury claims generally involve two basic questions: liability and damages. A claimant may have substantial medical expenses, but if responsibility for the collision cannot be established under applicable law, settlement negotiations can look very different. Factor 9. The quality and consistency of the evidence. A claim is easier to evaluate when important facts can be supported. Imagine two people claiming similar injuries. One has organized medical records, clear photographs, witness contact information, employment documentation, repair records, and consistent descriptions of what occurred. The other has few records and major inconsistencies. The underlying injuries may be similar, but the ability to demonstrate them may not be. Evidence can help answer several questions. Did the collision occur as described? Were the injuries reported close in time to the event? What treatment was received? How long did recovery take? How much income was lost? Were there previous injuries involving the same body area? Did witnesses observe the collision? Are there photographs or video? Insurers may investigate using statements, photographs, repair estimates, police information, witnesses, and other evidence. Consistency also matters. If a person's description changes dramatically across medical records, insurance statements, and later testimony, questions may arise. This does not mean every minor difference destroys a claim. Human memory is imperfect. But major unexplained contradictions can create disputes about credibility. Factor 10. The insurance coverage and financial resources available. This final factor is often overlooked. A claim may involve substantial damages, but recovery can still be affected by available insurance coverage and other legally available sources of payment. Auto liability policies have coverage limits. Those limits can vary substantially by policy and state. For example, state minimum liability requirements differ, and a driver may carry only the minimum required coverage or may purchase much higher limits. That distinction can become critical after a serious injury. Suppose damages appear to exceed the at-fault driver's liability coverage. Questions may then arise about uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, additional responsible parties, umbrella policies, employer coverage, or other legally available sources depending on the facts. This does not mean insurance limits automatically define what a claim is legally worth. They can, however, affect how much money is realistically available from a particular policy. The exact analysis depends on the insurance contracts, responsible parties, applicable law, and circumstances of the collision. That is why someone should not assume that hearing a single policy number tells the entire story. Why online settlement calculators can be misleading. You may have seen websites asking you to enter medical bills and then producing an estimated settlement number. That can look convenient. But a real claim contains far more variables than one multiplication. Formula can capture. Two people can have identical medical expenses and still have very different cases. One may recover completely. The other may experience permanent disability. One may have clear video showing the other driver caused the crash. The other may face a serious dispute over responsibility. One may have substantial insurance coverage available. The other may discover that coverage is limited. One may lose no income. Another may lose an entire career. A calculator cannot fully account for all of those differences. That is why a settlement estimate should not be treated like a guaranteed price quote. Why the first offer may not tell you the full value. Insurance negotiations can begin before every issue is fully understood. An early offer does not necessarily mean the amount represents the final or correct value of a claim. At the same time, rejecting an offer does not automatically mean a larger amount will eventually be recovered. Settlement is a negotiation. Both sides evaluate risk. The insurance company may evaluate liability, damages, evidence, policy terms, legal defenses, and the possibility of litigation. The injured person may evaluate medical recovery, expenses, future needs, legal risk, delay, and the consequences of signing a release. The American Bar Association explains that settlement generally involves accepting money in exchange for ending the action and signing a release of further liability. That makes understanding the terms important, not just looking at the dollar figure. 10 factors to remember. So if you are trying to understand what may influence the value of a car accident claim, remember these 10 areas. The severity of the injury, the amount and nature of medical treatment, expected future health care needs, income already lost, possible reduction in future earning ability, pain and the effect on ordinary life, permanent impairment or long-term consequences, the strength of the liability case, the quality and consistency of supporting evidence, and the insurance coverage or other legally available resources involved. No single factor determines the result by itself. A large medical bill does not automatically create a particular settlement. A badly damaged vehicle does not automatically determine the value of an injury. And another person's settlement does not establish what a different claim should be worth. Each matter depends on its own evidence, law, insurance, injuries, and circumstances. Here at Law IQ, our goal is to help you understand the legal concepts behind everyday situations without pretending that every case has the same answer. If this breakdown gave you useful insight, subscribe to Law IQ for more educational videos about personal injury claims, insurance disputes, legal rights, and the issues that can affect important financial decisions. This content is general legal education only. It is not individualized legal advice, does not create an attorney-client relationship, and should not be treated as a prediction of any particular settlement or legal outcome. Rules governing damages and insurance vary by jurisdiction and facts. For advice regarding a specific matter, consider consulting a qualified attorney in the relevant jurisdiction. Know the law. Protect your rights.